Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Hero House unboxing and review. This one may be a bit different because we don't have any boxes to unbox. Basically haven't bought anything brand new this week, so instead I will be doing a haul video, I believe they're called, detailing some things I've managed to pick up cheap on eBay in my time in England. As you can see, it's pretty substantial what I've managed to grab. These three are good finds, especially for the price I was able to find them at, especially King Grayskull, the gentleman in front here, who's quite impressive. Definitely gives off a Conan vibe. So I'll be going through them one by one and just sort of explaining who they are and what my opinion of them is. So let's start with King Grayskull, I guess. King Grayskull, the man, the myth, the legend. When Prince Adam invokes his power, he is transformed into He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. And it is easy to see why. King Grayskull, as you can probably tell from that intro spiel, is basically the proto-He-Man. He is the guy who owned the castle that He-Man works for. He was a king of considerable strength and power who, in the 2002 series, battled against Hordak and was the one who sort of banished him to another dimension. I'm not sure if that other dimension was Etheria, like in the old cartoon, or... Actually, wait, no, it was called Despondos, so, you know, great naming there. I imagine things aren't too bright in Despondos. But King Grayskull's had a single episode dedicated to himself, and it was one of the finest episodes of the show, which was admittedly quite short-lived, but very, very good. It's a shame it was cancelled. And in that, they basically established that King Grayskull was as noble and as strong and as valiant as He-Man has ever been, and sadly lost his life in, you know, preventing Hordak's ascension. Now, the figure itself was one of the earliest additions to the Masters of the Universe Classics line. However, as that line never particularly evolved, that doesn't age him much. His articulation and sculpting is top-notch. He comes with some decent accessories. He's got He-Man's shield. He's got the sword of Grayskull, but his has a magical effect. So I'm guessing that's meant to be him, I don't know, summoning his power, but then again, it's He-Man who summons his power. His power is innate, so not actually sure why they did that. His cloak is quite regal, a bit tattered to sort of show off his barbarian nature, I guess. You know, he is a rugged, manly hero. They've actually flocked the fur bits to give it a bit of texture. As you can see, he's not super stable, but then I found that the Masters of the Universe Classic line are not that stable in general. He-Man is a bitch to film the show with just because he is constantly toppling over. Other than that, there's not too much to say because I don't have the packaging. His packaging for his initial release was like a huge box that looked like Castle Grayskull, and when you opened it to display him, it said, "By the power of Grayskull." So that would have been a 5 out of 5. That would have been, you know, tits to have. But since I got him off the internet, he has no packaging. He has, you know, he's him. But in terms of articulation and accessories and sculpting and just fun, he's definitely a 5 out of 5. I won't mark him down for not having the packaging because that's on me. Our next offering is Mr. Sinister. He is an older Marvel Legends figure and he is tall. Look at that length. He's got great articulation, except in his legs. Marvel Legends, some of the older ones had like these ball joint legs where I can get them out to the sides, like you can do the splits quite easily, but I cannot bring them forward. You're supposed to be able to sort of twist the ball and then you can bring it forward, but that robs you of the side motion. So it's kind of an inefficient, outdated system that they have gotten rid of in the more recent releases. But that's just, you know, a sign of the times. As a character, Mr. Sinister's pretty interesting. He's basically the servant slash nemesis slash bitch of Apocalypse, and he's a geneticist who is obsessed with using genetics to create the ultimate mutant, usually with the intent of making one that could overthrow Apocalypse, which, considering there are several mutants more powerful than Apocalypse, seems a bit redundant at this stage, but you know what, it was the 90s. And as a 90s character, his power set is just whatever they needed him to do that issue. I mean, he can shapeshift, he can read minds, he's super strong, he can heal from anything. Like, basically, he is just Apocalypse light, but because Apocalypse often suffers from the Worf effect, which is, for anyone who's not familiar, a powerful character is defeated to make another character look better. That means that Sinister, in terms of track record, comes across as more menacing and successful than Apocalypse. Now, in terms of packaging, he would have come in something similar to what the Captain Marvel figure I showed you a few weeks would have come in. It was a clamshell, it would have said Marvel Legends, probably would have had the little data card on the back, it would have included a comic that had one of his, seminal appearances. He would have had a Build-A-Figure packed in there, but I'm pretty sure he didn't come with any accessories. Which I guess makes sense for him because he doesn't have any accessories you could give him, he doesn't have any items of significance attached to him, and he is quite large. I mean, he's very, very tall for a figure. I don't think he's like that tall in the comics, but then again, he can shapeshift, so whatever. And the sculpting is very fine, you can see the lines, you can see his fingers are articulated, even, and they've just done a knockout job of capturing the essence of Mr. Sinister. His shoulder pads have stuff designed into them. They put a lot of effort into his base sculpt. So I can give him a pass on the accessories. I mean, they could have given you something, I guess, but I'd still say he's at least a 4 out of 5 figure. The articulation in his legs does let him down. Alright, and now we come to an old friend. If you were watching the Captain Marvel video, you would have already seen Bill. He was a point of comparison, and basically it was me gushing about how incredible he is as a figure, and I stand by that. His articulation is rock solid, his aesthetic design is incredible, and just captures the essence of the character so well, and as you can see, he's a complicated character to do, so for them to, capture it so effectively was an achievement. He has an accessory he's got his hammer, like he needed to have his hammer, and they gave us that. And I'm glad for that. He would have come in a similar package to Mr. Sinister or Captain Marvel. Clamshell, comic. I think the comic had his first appearance in which he defeated Thor and, was actually worthy of lifting the hammer and claiming it as his own. And then Thor dueled him for the hammer, and Bill won again, but he was such a noble, cool dude that he let Thor keep the hammer, so Odin made him Stormbreaker, his own hammer that only he could lift, because no one in the universe is more worthy than Bill. If you want a comic book that is a fantastic introduction to the Marvel Universe beyond the planet, you should pick up Better Ray Bill's Stormbreaker. It is one of the best miniseries I think I've ever read, one of the first I ever read. It features one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in a comic book on a truly sort of stellar scale, so definitely worth your time, and this figure would definitely be worth, investing in if you can track him down. I got him at an absolute bargain. I always wanted one, but getting him into Australia was just too expensive. But here, I think I picked him up for £4 or something, and £2 postage. So you can get some real steals on, eBay here, and it is just fantastic. The only downside is because he's from eBay, he's a bit battered. He's got some paint scrapes, but that's not a knock against the figure. I imagine that wasn't there when he was brand new, and frankly, I can fix that. I've modded some figures in the past, so I'll just paint over that. He does have an odd hole in his cape and into his back, which I believe was for a stand, but that's a questionable design decision because the cape sits far back enough that you could just, throw the stand underneath that and he'd be fine. Plus, his balance is pretty good. He's got the best balance of any figure I've showed you today. I could basically spend hours praising this Bill. I mean, what a figure. Marvel Legends at its peak, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that is just fantastic. And then he came from the same line as Captain Marvel, who I gave a very average rating to. That's just blowing me away. Alright, so that's a basic overview of all the characters. We've got a 4 out of 5, a 5 out of 5, and a, 5 out of 5, but I would give Bill a 6 if my scale, could go up and beyond, because so happy. Now, I guess I'll show you some pictures of them in action, so you can see the articulation in use.
Stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now.
And there we have it. 3 older figures who are no less fantastic for their age. If you have any questions or opinions, please feel free to share. And if you'd like what you've seen here, then head on over to the other side of our channel. You can see the action figures in action in our show called Hero House. It is a blast, and I highly recommend it, though I am somewhat biased. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again.